All right, let's start off with Tulsi Gabbard makes an appearance on the Tucker Carlson show on Fox News, and this happened literally the day after I was doing a video, if you saw it, about me saying, I can't believe this, but I actually agree with Tucker Carlson for once. He is one of my top three least favorite people on the Republican side of things. And sure enough, I was talking about him and his stance on regime change wars. He's very much against it turns out. And the very next day, he has Tulsi Gabbard on. And that's what they're talking about. Her and him agreeing on the fact that neither of them think regime change war is good for our country. Here's the clip.
What's so interesting is that worldview, the regime change worldview, I mean, if it worked, at one time I thought it sounded like it made sense, but we've had almost 20 years of it, and it demonstrably hasn't worked. I mean, there's really kind of no debate about how badly it's gone. Why would people still support that?
That's a great question. If you look at the military-industrial complex that benefits off of these continued regime change wars, you look at those in Washington who's have invested their entire careers built on continuing to wage these wars, and the most unfortunate thing is they sell them under the guise of humanitarianism to the American people who want to be able to do good things, who want to be able to help people who are suffering, but not pointing out the fact and not facing the truth that in each of these different examples of regime change led by the United States, it has resulted in far more suffering for the people who they're supposedly trying to help. Now, there's a lot of different motives for this. You can look at corporate greed. You can look at who actually benefits financially from these wars if you want to see why they're continuing and why it perpetuates, again, by self-serving powerful politicians and leaders in both parties.
Has anyone, no, you've been attacked quite a bit, and I'm not going to make you relive it, including by some people I know who should know better, to be honest with you. But nobody has engaged you in the argument you just made. Instead, they've dismissed you as sucking up to this dictator. You're a bad person is basically what they're saying. Has anybody actually debated you on the points that you're making?
No. Constantly I see, again, people from both parties instead resorting to name-calling or superficial attacks because they refuse to engage on the substance of this argument about why they continue to push for and try to wage these regime change wars, ignoring the disastrous consequences on the people in those countries and the American people. The reality is these wars are costing us, the taxpayers, trillions of dollars that should be here, that should remain in our pockets, or invested in things like rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure, invested in the needs of our people.
I just want to say again, just to be totally clear, we disagree on many things, but I admire your bravery for saying that out loud, and you are always welcome on the show. I appreciate your coming.
Thanks,
Thank
Tucker.
you very much.
Appreciate it.
So why is Tucker Carlson the only mainstream media outlet that's actually giving Tulsi Gabbard a fair shake? That's what I want to know. Why, out of all of the media outlets, it would be Tucker Carlson, the ranting, raving Republican, why he would be the one who actually gives her a fair shake, and why everybody else would demonize her and question her motivations and think that she's aligning herself with Assad and not with the interests of the American people. Why is this? And why, as they were speaking here, and he says, has anybody engaged you? Has anybody debated you? And she says no. They just resort to name calling, or they just resort to justifying why they're for regime change wars. Why are we not having this conversation more in Congress? Why is there not the conversation of, hey, are we doing the right thing? Is this really helping anybody? We do all of these inquiries and all of these investigations into things like Trump and what he's doing and how he might be a Manchurian candidate for the Russians or whatever. We go through all of these ridiculous and crazy investigations, yet we don't investigate, at least not publicly. At least it's not publicly. At least it's not reported on to great lengths. If we are, I have no idea. Are we even investigating the costs of these wars, the actual human costs of these wars, how it's not benefiting people at all, and putting together reports and presenting those reports and then saying, hey, listen, wow, it looks like this actually hasn't helped at all. We see some reports about Libya. We get that in the news from some journalists that travel there and say, wow, my gosh, look what's going on. But why isn't it more of a conversation in our government? Why are we having to rely on media outlets that, are not these mainstream media outlets? Why are we having to rely on them to report on the actual costs of these wars? Why are we not having these conversations? And again, why is Tucker Carlson the only one in all of mainstream media making any sense?